I will call on Ms. Denny Carbon to lead us in the national anthem. Please stand. Thank you, Ms. Carbon. I invite you to stay standing as I welcome Mr. Jelani Shillingford to lead us in the opening prayer.
Let's begin with the sign of the cross. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for bringing us together for the finals of this inter-secondary schools debating competition. We are grateful for this opportunity to witness the talent, hard work, and dedication of these students. As we begin, we ask that you grant each participant confidence, charity, and composure as they present their arguments. Help all present to listen with open minds and respectful hearts, and may this competition be conducted in a spirit of fairness, integrity, and good sportsmanship. We pray for wisdom and discernment for the judges as they make their decisions, and we ask your blessings upon the organizers, teachers, and everyone gathered here today. May this event be successful, inspiring, and enjoyable for all. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Jelani. You may be seated. To our specially invited guests, representatives of the sponsors, the judges, the moderator, students, debaters, media, good morning to you all. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you to today's final debate, the final debate of the Intersecondary Schools Debating Competition of 2026. So to those of you gathered here and to those of you listening to us via social media, DBS Radio, MO News, or Dominican News Online, it is a distinct pleasure that you are with us today in this fourth consecutive year of debating at the secondary school level, reintroduced after a brief absence. Debating for me has always represented a gateway to future successes. Successes, I dare say, that are immeasurable by mere imagination. The confidence, the determination, the critical thinking skills, and the strategic planning it takes to conquer a debate stage are no small feats. So my efforts to reestablish a debating competition at the secondary school level was born out of an innate desire that I had for our young people of today to master these feats during their formative years. And I dare say our finalists today have already proven themselves capable from what I have seen from the previous rounds, and of this I am extremely proud. This debate finals has already stacked up itself against the others as being one of many firsts. It will be the first time in this newly reintroduced debating competition's history that the Wesley High School will compete in the finals. It will be the first time that the Dominica Grammar School will defend a debate championship. It is the first time that this debate finals is being held in term 3. Typically, we do it at the end of term 2. So this is the first term 3 finals. And this is the first time that we can all place bets, if any of you are betting people, and have no fear of losing your wager, that the debate champions of 2026 will be 2 young ladies. So start placing your bets, right? We know this for sure. Today, it is my fervent hope that with the continued support of the corporate world and our partners, and I'm so happy to see sponsors represented here today, and with new leadership that I pray for to step forward to lead this effort, that the competition will continue in many years to come. Finalists, debaters from the Dominica Grammar School, Michaela and Lydia, and of the Wesley High School, Hepzibah and Niola. Today is your day. Enjoy the battle. Execute your argumentative presentations in the way you've been coached to do. Your coaches are watching. Be bold, be courageous, and then allow the judges to do the rest. I welcome you all to the debate finals. And now, I have the privilege of joining the audience to enjoy this debate. But before I do so, allow me to introduce and hand over to our very capable moderator for today's debate proceedings, and that is Dr. Kimone Joseph. Dr. Kimone Joseph is head at the UE Global Campus, Dominica, and in addition to her administrative role, she also facilitates courses in public speaking, public relations, education, and leadership at the UWI. Kimone is the former coordinator of the Kiwanis Club of Roseau's Secondary Schools Debate Competition, and she's a steadfast and irreplaceable asset to the Intersecondary Schools Debating Competition. She has said that she enjoys reading and gardening. Kimone, I hope that is still true. I welcome now to the podium to lead you through the rest of the proceedings today, Dr. Kimone Joseph.
Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure for me to be here to moderate the finals of the secondary schools debate competition for 2026. I am going to just introduce us to the topic, and that is Dominica should amend its Sexual Offences Act to allow limited publication of the identities of accused sexual offenders in the public interest. Today, the Dominica Grammar School will be proposing the topic, and the speakers there are Michaela Benjamin and Lydia Charles. Opposing the topic will be the Wesley High School, and the presenters there are Hefziba Adimola and Nayola Aline. We're looking forward to a successful debate. I would like to let you know who our judges are going to be, and these are Indira Seja, who is our chief judge. Indira, raise your hand so that people can see. Yes? And yes, clap for Indira, thank you. Indira Seja is a certified mediator, notary public, and attorney at law engaged in private practice in the areas of corporate law, property law, administration of estates, and probate law. Over the last 14 years, she has practiced law in Anguilla, St. Kitts Nevis, and Dominica, appearing before all three levels of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court in these jurisdictions. She's also a lecturer at the Dominica State College and a debate enthusiast, serving for several years as a judge and a moderator at the Inter-Secondary Schools Debate Competition. Ladies and gentlemen, Indira Seja. This morning, Ms. Seja will be assisted by Mrs. Delia Coffey Weeks. Mrs. Weeks, raise your hand so that people can see you. Mrs. Weeks is a social and human rights advocate with a long-standing commitment to the protection of vulnerable groups, particularly women and children. She's a graduate of the University of the West Indies Global Campus, where she earned a bachelor's degree in social work. She's widely recognized in Dominica for advocacy on issues such as child abuse, gender-based violence, and social justice. Notably, she has led public campaigns calling for stronger legal protection of minors, including spearheading a national petition to raise the age of consent. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Delia Coffey Weeks. And the other judge assisting Ms. Seja this morning is Antonia Yankee. Raise your hand. Very good. Antonia Yankee works with the Ministry of Education as a guidance counselor in the Northern District, working with schools from Collyho to Marigot. She's also the founder and manager of a home for the elderly located in Salisbury. Ladies and gentlemen, Antonia Yankee. And so again, our topic for today is Dominica should amend its Sexual Offences Act to allow limited publication of the identities of accused sexual offenders in the public interest. Proposing the topic is the Dominica Grammar School, and opposing the topic is the Wesley High School. I will now introduce our proponents to the topic, and when I've introduced each candidate, each speaker, I would ask her to come forward and take her seat. The proposing school will sit on this side, and it will be the Dominica Grammar School. And the first speaker for the Dominica Grammar School is Michaela Benjamin. Oh no, I've not asked her to come forward yet. Michaela Benjamin is a Form 4 student. She's a business major, and her favorite subject is mathematics. She wants to be a teacher when she grows up. She lives in Fort-Bourbon-Louvière with her family. Ladies and gentlemen, the first speaker from Dominica Grammar School, Michaela Benjamin. Supporting Michaela today is Miss Lydia Charles. Lydia is a Form 4 student at the Dominica Grammar School. She is a science student. Her favorite subject is chemistry, and she wants to be a cosmetologist. She lives in Canefield with her family. Ladies and gentlemen, Lydia Charles. On the opposing side of our topic is Wesley High School. So they will be called forward to sit on this side. The first speaker is Hefziba Adimola. Hefziba is in Form 3. She's a business major. Her favorite subject is mathematics, and she hopes to become an accountant. She lives in Walhouse, Louvier with her family. Ladies and gentlemen, Hefziba Adimola. The second speaker for Wesley High School is Nayola Aline. Nayola is a Form 5 student. She's a business major. Her favorite subjects are biology, mathematics, and business. She wants to be an architect when she grows up, and she lives in Egliston. I also wish to recognize my timekeeper who will be assisting me today, and that's Ermine Pascal, who is a paralegal student at the Dominica State College. Thank you, Ermine. So let's talk a little bit about how this is going to happen. So the leader of each of the teams gets 10 minutes, while the supporter gets 7 minutes to make their presentation. So the leader of the proposition shall make her case for a maximum of 10 minutes. That will be Ms. Benjamin. Then the leader of the opposition shall make her case for 10 minutes, and that will be Ms. Adimola. After that, the second speaker for the proposing team will make her presentation for 7 minutes. That will be Ms. Charles. After her presentation, the second speaker for the opposing team will make her presentation for 7 minutes. That will be Ms. Aline. After that, we will have a 5-minute complete silence. That's always the hardest part for me, personally, where they will plan their rebuttal. At the end of the 5 minutes, the first speaker for the proposing team, Ms. Benjamin, will give her rebuttal for 3 minutes, and then the first speaker for the opposing team, Ms. Adimola, will give her rebuttal for 3 minutes. Now, Ermine is going to be my timekeeper, so she will tell me when there is 1 minute left. I will raise my hand at that point. Ermine will tell me again when time is up, and I'll raise my hand again at that point. I'll try my best to keep my hand up until the speaker sees my hand. But you know, I'm not as young as I once was. So I hope that they'll be looking in my direction when it's almost time so they can see that my hand is up. And so I think we have covered all in terms of the rules. I will say when I come to the podium, the amount of time that the speaker before used, I will let the audience members know that, and the judges as well. I would like to just spend about a minute or so just telling you who the sponsors are before I go to take my seat and call the first speaker to the podium. So the sponsors, Josephine Gabriel and Company, and sponsoring Quenchy and Twapiton, Dominica Social Security, Nagico Insurances, Central Cooperative Credit Union, KFC, the National Bank of Dominica Limited, Domlec, Lindomat, Insurance Companies of the West Indies, Dominica News Online, Maisel Pascal and Grace Foundation, Freeman Consulting LLC, Imo News, DBS Radio, Q95 FM Radio, Dr. Shana Kazimir, Cheryl Roll of Sagico Life, Dr. Iliv Peltier, Yakima Coffee, Elaine Rene Buncombe, Shams Eats and Treats, Dr. Mary Pascal Afana. The partners for the debating competition are the Dominica State College and the UWI Global Campus. I'm going to go ahead and proceed to my seat, but before that, I would like to welcome Michaela Benjamin to the podium. Michaela, come forward, but you will wait for me until I get to my seat and begin timing, so you can already come forward. Just to remind the audience that our topic is Dominica should amend its Sexual Offences Act to allow limited publication of the identities of accused sexual offenders in the public interest. And our first speaker from the Dominica Grammar School proposing the topic is Michaela Benjamin.
One, two, okay. The shield cannot become a shadow. Organizers of the inter-secondary school debate competition, moderator, honorable judges, my most able colleague, worthy opponents, and members of the audience, good morning again. The law is often described as a shield, a solid visible barrier meant to protect the innocent from harm. But a shield only works when it is held in the light. When the law deliberately hides the identity of the accused, when the law deliberately hides the identity of someone accused of a serious sexual offense, that shield stops becoming a protector and starts being a shadow. And we know how dangerous a shadow can be. A shadow is where a predator hides the identity. A shadow is silence that tells the victim, no one will believe you. A shadow is the darkness that allowed Larry Nassar, a serial sexual offender, to abuse children for 20 years, while the system looked the other way. Judges, in that shadow, justice doesn't just go blind. It becomes an accomplice. That is why we stand here today. We are not here to take away anyone's rights. In fact, we are here to pull back the curtain. We propose that Dominica amend its Sexual Offences Act to allow the limited publication of the accused when the public interest demands of it. Now, this motion is very specific, and specificity is our friend. Let us examine exactly what this motion is saying. Accused, according to the Sexual Offences Act 1, number 38.1, means one of two things. A person named in an information alleging that the person has committed the offense. And B, a person who appears before the court charged with the offense. Judges, the Act 1 further states that once someone is under this law, the public cannot publish or broadcast anything that could identify the complainant or the victim. This rule has two exceptions. A, if the complainant or the accused asks the court to lift the restriction, the court can allow it if keeping it a secret would unfairly limit reporting and it is in the public interest to reveal the identity. And B, if the accused is tried and found guilty, the identity can be made public after conviction. Amend, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, means to improve a law. Limited publication means controlled, legally approved disclosure, not social media chaos, not village talk. And public interest, as defined in Black Law's Dictionary, means what protects the safety and well-being of a society. Put simply, this topic explores changing the law to allow certain information about people accused of sexual crimes to be made public. It addresses the tension between protecting the identity of the accused and ensuring the safety of the community. So let us be clear. We are not tearing down our Sexual Offences Act of 1998. We are fixing a gap. This motion is not about punishing people early. It is about protecting people early. Judges, my role today is to drive 2 heavy nails into the coffin of this opposition. 1, the law must prevent harm, not just react to it. And 2, justice must be seen to be trusted. Nail number 1, law must prevent harm, not just react to it. Right now, the system waits. It waits until someone is convicted. It waits until the case is strong. Sometimes it waits until it is too late. And sexual offenses do not usually happen once. And the evidence proves it. Professor Matt DeLisi, 2016, found that 69% of offenders had admitted to crimes not on record. And later research showed that 73.8% had committed previous offenses. The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crimes also reports that in the Caribbean, fewer than 1 in 10 sexual offenses are reported. So, by the time a name is finally exposed by the courts, there may already be many victims behind it. And judges, that leads to one truth. When the law stays silent, it no longer acts as a shield, but becomes a shadow that the perpetrators hide in. Judges, here are 2 real-life examples. Look at Larry Nassar, the former USA Gymnastics and Michigan State University sports doctor. He sexually abused over 150 young athletes over a period of more than 2 decades. Judges, ça c'est méchanceté. Despite complaints being made as early as the 1990s, he was not arrested and ultimately convicted until 2017, meaning the abuse continued for roughly 20 years before justice finally caught up. And when survivors finally found the courage to speak out, many said the same chilling words. I thought I was the only one. Judges, this is what happens when the accused remains unnamed. Let us also consider the case of Harvey Weinstein. For decades, rumors circulated, but it was only when the first set of public allegations were published that dozens of other women realized they weren't alone. This transparency turned a series of unprovable private encounters into a global movement and a successful prosecution. Without that initial public disclosure, many of those victims would still be living in the same shadow. I am the only one. Judges, this current system isolates victims and protects predators. Let us fix that now. And nail number 2, justice must be seen to be trusted. There is a long-standing legal maxim. Justice must not only be done, but must be seen to be done. Justice that exists behind a veil of secrecy is justice that will not be trusted. And justice that is not trusted will not be used. This unravels the principle of open justice. Our opponents defend the current system in the name of due process. However, they ignore a fundamental pillar of due process: public confidence. In the Australian Law Reforms Commission's analysis of Commonwealth law, it found that open justice is a cornerstone of our legal system. It is the only way the public can scrutinize the courts, and it is critical to maintaining faith in the law. The U.S. Supreme Court in Rio Oliver ruled that justice cannot survive behind walls of silence. They argued that public scrutiny is not a threat. It is the primary safeguard against a miscarriage of justice. Judges, the data from the UN Women, Caribbean, and CARICOM is clear. 2 of the top 3 barriers to reporting sexual offenses are a fear of disbelief and a lack of trust in the justice system itself. Look at Jeffrey Epstein. For years, victims stayed silent because they thought they were alone, while he moved freely through the community, unnamed and unchallenged. When a survivor watches that, while carrying their experience alone, the message they receive is not due process is working. The message they receive is this system was not built for you. This silence doesn't protect the victim. It protects predators and erodes the public faith in the law. By allowing for limited, regulated publication of the accused's identity, it tells the community, we are taking this seriously. It tells potential victims, we are seeing what is going on. And it tells the survivor, you are no longer alone in what you know. Judges, we need to ensure that the law is not a private shadow for the few, but a public sword for the many. Honorable judges, let us ensure that the shield of the law is transparent enough to be trusted and firm enough to protect. Because once justice becomes a shadow, it no longer conceals harm. It creates it. I thank you.
That was Michaela Benjamin, the first speaker for the Dominica Grammar School, and she spoke for 10 minutes and 17 seconds. We now move on to the first speaker from Wesley High School. I call her to come to the podium, and then once I get back to my seat, I'll give her the thumbs up so she can begin. The first speaker for the Wesley High School opposing the topic is Zevziba Adimola.
Madam Moderator, honorable judges, worthy opponents, my brilliant colleague, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The proposition asks us to trade the presumption of innocence, the very DNA of our legal system, for a vague shifting notion of public interest. They want to take Section 38, subsection 1 of our Sexual Offences Act, which explicitly states that any matter likely to lead members of the public to identify an accused person shall not be published or broadcast in Dominica, which is the very shield of our judicial integrity, and melt it down into a sword for the mob. This is a trial by TikTok, where the verdict is reached before the court clerk calls the court to order. Therefore, we oppose the motion which states that Dominica should amend its Sexual Offences Act to allow limited publication of the identities of accused sexual offenders in the public interest. To put the topic in perspective, let us examine our key terms. The Sexual Offences Act, according to Dominica's constitution, is the official piece of legislation that consolidates, defines, and sets out the strict laws and punishments for all sexual crimes committed within the country. Limited, according to the Law Dictionary, refers to something confined within positive bounds, restricted in duration, extent, or scope. Publication, according to Legal Information Institute, is the act of making something known to the public at large to inspect or scrutinize. The accused, as derived from Dominica's constitution, refers to any individual who has been formally charged with a criminal offense and is subject to legal proceedings before a court of law. Public interest, according to Black Law's Dictionary, refers to something in which the public, the community at large has some pecuniary interest or some interest by which their legal rights or liabilities are affected. To prove that amendments will not be in the public interest, I will scrutinize 3 main points. 1, the irreversible stigma. 2, the erosion of the legal bedrock. And 3, the shield fallacy. And my colleague, while making some recommendations, will demonstrate that agreeing with our opponents does not protect Dominica by focusing on 1, it encourages vigilantism. 2, judicial inefficiencies are not in the public interest. To my first point, the irreversible stigma. The proposition wants to amend Section 38. But once you let the genie out of the bottle, you cannot put it back. So if there is publicity, what happens? Imagine a teacher is accused of sexual harassment. And under the proposition's recommended amendment, the moment the accusation is made, his name is published. Overnight, he is no longer a teacher. He is a monster. He is suspended, whispered about, avoided. 6 months later, the court declares him innocent. Does society apologize? No, because once a name is stained, the world really waits for the truth to clean it. A simple Google search still brands him a sexual offender. His career is over. His family is shattered. His reputation permanently scarred. And this is not hypothetical. In 2013, in the United Kingdom, before stronger anonymity protections, a university student was falsely accused of rape. He spent nearly a year under public suspicion. Friendships lost, future uncertain, career prospects collapsed, all under the weight of an unproven allegation. A year later, he was acquitted by the jury in less than an hour because the evidence was so weak. Yet, the damage was already done. A year of near destruction for less than 60 minutes of justice. There is no gentle way to say this. Once a name is public, the damage is often permanent, even when the accusation is false. So the question is not whether justice works in the courtroom. The question is what happens before justice arrives. Justice in the courtroom may declare a man innocent, but it cannot erase public judgment once society has already executed its character. To my second point, the erosion of the legal bedrock. Publishing names at the mere stage of accusation. Are we not handing the public the power of a verdict because this amendment treats an arrest as a conviction? Let's be clear about what publication truly signals. The moment the state publishes the name of an accused, it whispers to the public, we think this person probably did it. That whisper poisons the jury pool. Because how can our adjudicators, 12 Dominicans, remain truly impartial when they've spent months reading monster, rapist, envious in the comment section, hearing it on every radio station and from their own neighbors, families, and friends? Taylor 2007 confirms that myths and stereotypes about sexual violence are common within the general community. And since jurors are drawn from that same community, the bias they carry into the courtroom reflects the bias outside of it. Research by the US Department of Justice further confirms that high-profile media coverage can prejudice legal proceedings and lead to wrongful convictions because the pressure to get the monster overwhelms the facts. We cannot allow the mob to dictate the gavel. My worthy opponent, Section 38, subsection 1A, states, and I quote, where on the application of the complainant or the accused, the court directs that the effect of the restriction is to impose a substantial and unreasonable restriction on the reporting of proceedings, and that it is in the public interest to remove the restriction in respect of the applicant. End of quote. It already allows a judge, a trained legal mind, to lift anonymity when it is truly in the public interest. So why take that power from a robed judge and hand it to a sensationalist blogger? The proposition will tell you this is only for limited cases in the public interest. But who defines public interest? And how limited is limited? In Dominica, where everyone knows everyone, once a name is out, it is out. This amendment does not aid justice. It makes a fair trial statistically impossible. My third and final pillar, the shield fallacy. The proposition claims to stand for victims and protect them. But in reality, they are unmasking them and causing far more harm than good. The moment you publish that a 50-year-old man in Marigot is accused of abusing his niece, you have publicly outed that child. You call this protection, but you stripped her of her dignity. Is that your public interest, or is it a blood spot for the audience? In our tight-knit communities, the identity of the accused is a roadmap to the identity of the victim. Name the father, you identify the daughter. Name the teacher, you narrow down the student. Researchers call this jigsaw identification, where scattered details combine like puzzle pieces to expose the child to the community's prying eyes. A 2025 article by the Queensland Council for Civil Liberties confirms this danger directly, stating that given that the overwhelming majority of sex offenders are known to or related to their victims, the first people likely to be harmed by the publication of the names of sex offenders are the victims themselves. And so, the proposed amendment designed to protect them becomes the instrument of their exposure. And what of the accused? In many jurisdictions, acquittal rate for sexual offenses can reach as high as 30% to 40% due to insufficient evidence. If we publish names at the mere accusation stage, we are dismantling the lives of people that the state itself will eventually admit it cannot prove are guilty. So who exactly are we protecting? Not the victim whom we have unmasked, not the innocent whom we have destroyed. We are protecting no one. We are simply feeding the public's appetite for scandal and calling it justice. Madam Moderator, the Sexual Offences Act is not broken. Section 38 is a safety valve, not a gag order. I have deliberated on the irreversible stigma, the erosion of the legal bedrock, and the shield fallacy. It is now crystal clear that it is not in the public's best interest to amend the Sexual Offences Act. If a man is proven guilty, let his name be shouted from the rooftops after the gavel falls. But until then, the state must be the guardian of truth, not the herald of gossip. Do not let our justice system be cannibalized by curiosity. Therefore, reject the motion. I thank you.
That was the first speaker for Wesley High School, our opposing team, Devziva Adimola. And she spoke for 10 minutes. We'll now move on to our presentations from our supporting speakers, our second speakers. And so we'll begin with the second speaker from the Dominica Grammar School. That is Lydia Charles. She will have 7 minutes to make her presentation. I invite her to come forward. And when I go back, I'll give her the thumbs up for her to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, Lydia Charles.
Organizers of the Intersecondary School Debate Competition, moderator, honorable judges, my most able colleague, worthy opponents, and members of the audience, good morning. The privacy fairy tale. Once upon a time, in a quiet village not too far from here, stood a beautiful house with the heaviest curtains you've ever seen. The neighbors were told a comforting fairy tale that those curtains were there to protect privacy. They were told that what happens behind closed doors is sacred. That innocent until proven guilty means they must all pretend that the house is empty. But every morning, the village children still walked past that gate. Every evening, parents still felt a chill they couldn't explain. You see, the fairy tale of privacy tells us that if we don't name the monster isn't there. It tells us that silence creates safety. But judges, when the law hides a wolf behind a curtain of privacy, it does not protect the village. It simply leaves everyone guessing who will be beaten next. Judges, that house is Dominica, and the curtain is the current Sexual Offences Act. I will now join my colleague in laying this debate to rest by driving the 3 last nails into this coffin. 1, it prevents rumors. 2, it is the duty to warn. And 3, the absurdity of selective secrecy. Nail 1, preventing the grapevine, the science of rumors. Let's start with facts, not feelings. A landmark 2018 study published in Science by Soroush Vazoghi found that false information spreads up to 6 times faster than the truth on social media. Similarly, UNESCO reports that when official information is withheld, people naturally fill in the gaps with speculation. Now let's bring that home to Dominica. When the law stays silent, Dominicans do not stay silent. We talk, but we don't talk with facts. We get the political Marboyd version, the Matt in the morning version, the WhatsApp status version that sends everyone running to Facebook to play detective like Sherlock Holmes, and the scandalous Dominica breaking news version. Everyone becomes an investigator, and we literally end up with 5 versions of the same story. So I ask, is this the protection the opposition is proud of? A system that replaces the rule of law with the rule of gossip? Because silence does not stop information. It simply ensures that the wrong information wins. We need to replace dangerous speculation with controlled truth. To do this, we must amend the Sexual Offences Act to allow limited publication of accused identity. Nail 2, the duty to warn, explaining Sarah's law. Now, who is the system actually meant to protect? Children, young girls, the vulnerable. They rely on the system to warn them. This is exactly why the United Kingdom introduced Child Sex Offender Disclosure Scheme, commonly known as Sarah's Law. Let me explain it simply. Sarah's Law allows parents, guardians, or carers to formally request information from the police about whether someone who has access to their child poses as a risk due to past sexual offenses. If a risk is identified, the police are legally empowered to disclose that information, but only when necessary to protect the child. This is not reckless exposure. This is controlled, responsible disclosure, and it works. Since its introduction in 2011, over 10,000 disclosures have been made in the UK, each one a potential case of harm prevented. That is not theory. That is protection in action. Yet, our opponents are asking us to wait. Wait for a conviction. Wait for proof. Wait for damage. Wait. Judges, we need to move from a system of wait and see to one of warn and protect. So we must amend the Sexual Offences Act to allow limited publication of accused identity. The last and final nail to seal the coffin: the absurdity of selective secrecy. Now, let's talk about fairness. In Dominica, if you are accused of stealing a goat in Castle Bruce, your name is public. If you commit fraud at Roseau Credit Union, your face is on the news. And if you are suspected of a robbery, the entire country knows before the sun sets. But when it comes to sexual offenses, the most invasive, repetitive, and psychologically damaging crimes, we suddenly become silent. Magwesa. Why? Why is the most serious violation of personal safety given the darkest curtain of secrecy? Does a fraudster deserve less due process than a sexual offender? Of course not. Judges, on 8th March 2026, a letter to the editor on DBN highlights the plight of one mother whom we interviewed thereafter. She made a report about her daughter's sexual abuse 1 year ago. She argues that the police are yet to do anything about it. Up to now, the perpetrator has not been named. Papa met judges. How many more girls has this bus driver molested since? Judges, when the law stays silent, people lose trust in it. A justice system must be credible to be consistent. Right now, this one is not. Judges, do we keep the curtains closed, or do we replace fear with truth, silence with protection, and secrecy with safety? If we live here today and choose silence, then tomorrow's harm will not be an accident. It will be a decision. And honorable judges, that is a decision we must not make. I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the second speaker from the Dominica Grammar School, Lydia Charles. Lydia spoke for 6 minutes and 38 seconds. And now we will have the second speaker from the opposing team, the Wesley High School. And that speaker is Nayola Aline. I invite Nayola to come forward. When I go back to my seat, I will give her the thumbs up so she can begin. She will have 7 minutes to make her presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, Nayola Aline.
Madam Moderator, honorable judges, worthy opponents, esteemed colleague, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My colleague has dismantled the facade of the proposition. Now, I shall bring the hammer down on their logic. My opponents are advocating for institutionalized character assassination. Justice is built on proof, not assumption. Therefore, we firmly stand against this motion. There are 2 counts in this indictment, followed by recommendations. 1, it encourages vigilantism, and 2, judicial inefficiencies are not in the public's interest. Madam Moderator, let us examine vigilantism. The proposition wants us to believe that publication serves the public interest. But no, publishing limited or full before conviction is not transparency. It exposes the individual and their family to public outrage and retaliation. Let us be honest. When people hear accused, they do not wait for a verdict. Emotion takes over. And suddenly, the public becomes judge, jury, and executioner. That spells danger. According to Human Rights Watch in its report, No Easy Answers, Sex Offender Laws in the US, 47% of registrants reported harassment. 28% received threatening calls, and 16% were physically assaulted. Let's come closer to home. In Jamaica, in 2021, Levi Chambers was beaten to death by a mob who wrongly identified him as an accused man who had abducted 2 girls. He was innocent, but he is dead. Madam Moderator, that is the reality of vigilantism and emotion. It does not wait for facts. It does not verify. It acts, and at most times, it is wrong. And in Dominica, it would be no different. A recent letter to the editor on DBN concerning a bus driver who allegedly touched a girl child inappropriately sparked national outrage. In the comment section, citizens openly called for vigilante action. Take matters into your own hands. Some matters need to be dealt with deep in the bush. Hash him, chop him. Honorable judges, this was a social media jury ready to crucify a man without evidence or without trial. Now imagine giving that same public legal permission to have a name. We conducted a survey of 40 individuals. 85% initially supported immediate publication and 15% opposed it. But when asked, what if the accused is later found innocent or your own family member, support dropped dramatically. The demand for publication of the accused is not driven by justice or public interest, but by emotion, anger, fear, frustration. I will confess, I too get emotional in such cases. But changing the law should never be dictated by emotions, but by logic. Laws must be guided by principle, not pressure. Yet, principles mean nothing without a system capable of sustaining them. Which brings me to my next point. The judicial inefficiencies continue to fail both the victims and the accused. Consider that a complaint is filed. 1 year later, after 2 reports, nothing has been done. Who is to be blamed when the institutions tasked with the investigations fail to act promptly? Madam Moderator, this is what is not in the public's interest. A system that delays justice, not a law that protects identities. Let us now examine a case reported in the Sun newspaper on April 1st, 2024. Convicted sex offender released after successful appeal of 35-year sentence. A man was accused of horrific crimes against a minor in 2013. He was convicted in 2015. He filed an appeal, which was only heard in 2023. 8 years later. And what did the court find? Serious irregularities. 1, judicial interference in how the jury was guided. 2, delays in the investigation. And 3, questions surrounding the sufficiency of evidence. The result? The conviction was put to rest, and the man was discharged. Now let's pause. This was a convicted man whose name had already been published. 9 years later, the system said, we got it wrong. So I ask, if this can happen to someone who was convicted, what will happen to someone who is merely accused? Are we as a society prepared to destroy lives based on allegations within a system prone to human error and one that has clearly shown itself to be slow and at times flawed? Honorable judges, Dominica is a small society. With or without publication, people talk, speculate, and assume. There is no need to formalize gossip within a policy. And the reality is that 100% of lawyers surveyed agreed that the act should not be amended. They argued that the broken part of our system is not privacy, but the lack of resources. We all agree on one thing. Sexual offenses demand urgent action. But our system creates an environment where perpetrators may go unpunished, mainly because of our systemic inefficiency. Hence, we recommend, 1, improving court efficiency to reduce case backlogs. 2, establishing a specialized court to handle cases involving children with urgency and sensitivity. 3, strengthening evidence collection such as DNA and forensics to boost convictions. And 4, expanding the victim support to focus on the healing of the survivor through state funding, counseling, and protection programs. And yes, we call on every citizen, report abuse and report perpetrators. But Madam Moderator, let us clear one thing. We support the existing Sexual Offences Act, which allows for the publication of convicted individuals. Once guilt is established, only then should names be made public from Capuchin to Kashaku. Ladies and gentlemen, we have built our case on the solid rock of law and reason, not emotion. Honorable judges, an accusation should start an investigation, not end a reputation. Stand for fairness, stand for justice, and firmly oppose this motion. I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Nayola Aline, and she spoke for 7 minutes and 23 seconds. It is now time It is now time for both sides to plan their rebuttal. I'm going to talk still, so they can even start already with 45 minutes. So our topic is Dominica should amend its Sexual Offences Act to allow limited publication of the identities of accused sexual offenders in the public interest. Dominica Grammar School has been proposing the topic, and our first speaker has been Michaela Benjamin, who is supported by Miss Lydia Charles. On the opposing side is Wesley High School. First speaker is Zefziba Adimola, and she is supported by Nayola Aline. It is now time for them to formally organize their rebuttal. They have 5 minutes in which to do so, and you and I are being asked a very, very, very serious thing of remaining silent for 5 whole minutes while they do that, and then I'll return to the podium so that the first speakers from each side can go ahead with their rebuttal in 3 minutes. I ask Amin to put 5 minutes on the clock now as I walk back down to my seat, and we give them the time. Amin? Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your discipline. The 5 minutes are up, and now it is time for the rebuttal section of our debate today. And so, the first speaker to give the rebuttal will be that of the proposing team, Michaela Benjamin. She will speak for 3 minutes maximum. I call her to come to the podium. When I get back to my seat, I will give her a thumbs up so she can begin her rebuttal on behalf of the Dominica Grammar School. Ladies and gentlemen, Michaela Benjamin.
To the honorable judges, the moderator, my opponents, and members of the audience, good morning again. Judges, imagine if I had a plate of cookies and I placed it on top your desk and I told you not to uncover the towel on top it. Wait until I come back. Wait, wait, wait. Judges, what do you think you'd want to do? You'd want to lift it even more. This is the dilemma in our current justice system. This is what happens when you do not reveal the identities of the accused. Because the public will not stay calm. It will go looking for it. And that causes chaos. Judges, for instance, they say, judges, that it will encourage vigilantism. My opponents, I acknowledge you. What is causing more vigilantism is not knowing the name of that blue bus driver. Without telling the audience the truth, they will go and find it themselves. You see, judges, controlled truth informs, while silence inflames. They also claim that jurisdictional inefficiencies affect the victim and the accused. Judges, if the court is unbiased, that speaks to our justice system. You see, judges, that is what we came here to do. Not just to tackle our opponents, but to change the justice system. You see, if an unbiased court can handle evidence, they can handle unawareness. And lastly, judges, my opponents claim that there will be an irreversible stigma. Judges, as I stated earlier, only 1 in 10 sexual offenses are reported. So how many more are not reported compared to those falsely accused? What is the point of a justice system that is unable to stand for what is right and watch the innocents get harmed? You see, judges, controlled identity is not declaring guilt. It is acknowledging that justice has begun. Honorable judges, I would like to put you in the place of the victim's parents. Imagine you send your child on a bus to go to school, and judges, they come back in tears, a mess, complaining to you that they were molested. How do you think you would feel if justice had the audacity to tell you that they'd rather protect the identities of the accused than help your child? Because you see, judges, the opposition wants to protect identities, while we are here to protect lives. I thank you.
That was Michaela Benjamin presenting the rebuttal for the proposing team, the Dominica Grammar School, and she spoke for 3 minutes and 9 seconds. The opposing rebuttal will be presented by Hephzibah Ademola. I call her to come forward. She'll have 3 minutes to make her presentation. Once I get back to my seat, I will give her the thumbs up. Ladies and gentlemen, Hephzibah Ademola.
Once again, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. After much deliberation by my colleague and I, we did found some flaws with my opponent's arguments. First, my opponent stated that innocent until proven guilty means we should stay silent, which is in our public interest to safeguard other potential victims. The proposition confused curiosity with public interest. Justice is not served by headlines, but by fair trials. Public interest does not mean public exposure without proof. True public interest lies in protecting justice, not prejudicing it. Publishing identities before conviction turns suspicion into perceived guilt, undermining the fundamental legal principle of innocence until proven guilty. My opponent also stated that amending the Constitution encourages victims to come forward. Victims need protection, not publicity. Turning cases into public spectacles silences them, not supports them. There is no strong evidence that naming accused persons increases reporting, because even now that we don't expose the accused, people report. In fact, it can discourage victims who fear media attention, backlash, or being indirectly identified. My opponent also stated that it protects society from potential offenders. We cannot protect society by punishing people before they are proven guilty. That is not protection. An accused person is not a proven threat. Publishing their identity may create false panic and misdirect public fear, especially if the person is later found innocent. My opponent also stated that it does not build trust in the present, that amending the Constitution brings trust into the justice system. Ladies and gentlemen, let me inform you, this actually has an opposite effect. Imagine someone is publicly named. The public assumes guilt. Months later, the court finds them innocent. What happens? The individual's life is ruined. The public begins to question, can we trust this system? Because instead of trust, you get cynicism, fear of false accusations, loss of confidence in legal fairness. Trust is when justice is seen to be fair, not when it is seen to be rushed. Ladies and gentlemen, I have exposed this. We reject the motion. I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Hefziba Adimola of the Wesley High School with her opposing rebuttal, and she spoke for 3 minutes and 16 seconds. It is now time for the judges to retire. Well, not retire, no, to go away from us and discuss and come to a conclusion about who will be our winning school for 2026. Again, our judges are Head Judge Indira Seja, and Ms. Seja is assisted today by Mrs. Delia Coffee Weeks and Ms. Antonia Yankee. I invite the judge's assistant to escort them out of here so they can go and do their deliberations. And we hope to see them very soon, very soon. Yes? And ladies and gentlemen, I will just give you an idea of what the judges will be deliberating about as they head out. So in the prepared speech section, they are looking for soundness of points, logical development, audibility and clarity, posture and personality, command of the material, and that is worth 100 points. In the rebuttal section, they are looking for team coordination, general analysis of the debate, recall of points, ability to refute the points, and spontaneity. And that is worth 60 points. So this is what the judges will be looking for. Again, our judges are Miss Indira Seja, our chief judge, who is assisted today by Mrs. Delia Coffee Weeks and Miss Antonia Yankee. And we thank them for their service. Also, there have been several people who have made themselves available for the 2026 National Debate Competition, and I would like to recognize them at this time. Serving on the committee that plans everything, we have Mrs. Alicia Jajak, Kimisha Warrington, Alden Gage, Rhonda Luke, Daisy Williams, and of course, Miss Trudy Christian. So we thank them very much for their service. And it is on occasions like today when we have a very good, a very solid debate that I am always grateful that again and again, what I'm most asked to do is to serve as moderator rather than as judge, because I don't want that job, you know. Although I train both the judges and the moderators, I always prefer to moderate because then I can sit and enjoy and not have to worry about having the people's fate in my hands. But I would like to call the list of the debate officials who have served for 2026. And these are Andrea Christian, Felix Wilson, Elizabeth Xavier Daly, Antonia Yankee, Brenton Hilaire, Dr. Barry Casimir, Marie-Ange Emmanuel, Carlton Lando, Merita Hyacinth, Karaya John Baptist, Nicole Laville, Indira Sejan, Ashley Massicott, Tidra Kirby, Janae Jackson, Melissa Morgan, Nadine Rivere, Fire Lander, David Edwards, Danielle Wilson, Jaya Pendeng, and your humble servant, Dr. Himoon Joseph. And so I thank everyone who has been assisting with the debate competition for 2026. Some of these people, some of these names have been with the official list since the revitalization of the debate competition, and some of them were there even before when the Kiwanis ran the secondary schools debate. So we are very grateful for that. Our sponsors for 2026 Inter-Secondary Schools Debate Competition are Josephine Gabriel and Company Limited, Dominica Social Security, Nagico Insurances, Central Cooperative Credit Union, KFC, National Bank of Dominica Limited, Domlec, Lindomat, Insurance Companies of the West Indies, Dominica News Online, Maisel Pascal and Grace Foundation, Freeman Consulting LLC, Imo News, DBS Radio, Q95 FM Radio, Dr. Shana Casimir, Cheryl Roll of Sagico Life, Dr. Alif Peltier, Yakima Coffee, Elaine Rennie Buncombe, Shams Eats and Treats, Dr. Mary Pascal Afana. The partners in the competition are the Dominica State College and the UWI Global Campus. I invite the presenters to go down for now and join your school and your parents and your friends to get your well wishes as we prepare for just a little discussion while we wait for the judges. So please give a round of applause for our presenters. As I said earlier, I'm not a judge, and thank goodness for that. But I do want everybody to understand, both those in the audience with us today, as well as those who are viewing us online and listening to us on the radio, how difficult it is to stand here as a child and to present on topics like these for debate. how much hard work it takes for a school and a debate team to prepare for a debate competition, and for particularly for those schools who are here today who have gone through round after round successfully. And I keep reminding schools and students all the time when I moderate for occasions like this that the majority of the people who would stand by and criticize could not do this. Falquet will take them and they will not be able to do what these 4 wonderful girls have done today. The research still shows that 98% of the world's population is afraid of public speaking. And so the joke always is that if they are at a funeral and they had the option to be in the casket or giving the eulogy, they would choose to die, okay? They would choose to die rather than speak in public. So it's not an easy thing to do. So while we have some time, while the judges have gone away, I listened intently to the presenters, and so I have a few questions. I'm not sure who is going to be assisting me with the roving mic today. Hello, what is your name? You can say it in the microphone.
Kenneth Mitchell.
Okay, so Mr. Mitchell has the mic, and I'd be very grateful if this was not a monologue. I'd be very grateful. Do we have prizes for people who, like we used to have before, when people answer questions? We don't do that anymore? Oh, well, we're going to do it for the love of talking then. So I have a few questions that I jotted down as the presenters were doing their presentations. And I'd be very grateful if the members of the audience could indulge me by having the discussion while we wait for the judges to return. And so the first question I have is, what are some of the reasons why victims do not come forward to report sexual offenses? Okay. What are some of the reasons why victims do not come forward to report sexual offenses? You pick the people. We'll come back to you. Yes. What are some of the reasons why people do not report sexual offenses?
Some people doesn't report sexual offenses because I feel that when you see they report it, the backlash, like they just feel like other people and their opinion, you know. Yeah, they just condemn them, you know, and tell them they fast, you know, give them bad comments, you know, and just tell them bad things overall, and that does make them regret their decision on coming up in the first place.
Very good. Anybody else on that side before we move to the other side? What are some of the reasons why victims do not come forward to report sexual offenses? Go ahead.
I feel like victims do not report because they are afraid of the media. Because in Dominica, there's a thing, bring go and bring come. Before something happens, 5 seconds, the whole of Dominica know. You know, I mean, no child wants to be going around and people saying, boy, that child was raped. That not the child the bus driver had sex with. You know, I feel like that's what. And another reason is maybe the sexual molesters threaten them. Say, if you go and tell, I'm going to kill you. No child wants to be dead. Nobody wants to be dead. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Anybody else on that side before we move to the other side? What are some of the reasons why victims do not come forward to report sexual offenses?
Well, my point was close to her ending one. Some people, they feel like when they talk about it on the internet, the offender might feel like coming after their family as a way of revenge.
Very good. All right, we'll come to the other side now. What are some of the reasons why victims do not come forward to report sexual offenses?
Well, where I come from, I know it happens a lot. And majority of the time, it's not only about being like talked about, but the fact that some people feel ashamed when they get molested, which, for example, a young girl has been molested from the age of 5, sometimes 8, and while growing up, sometimes they live with their the molester, and just growing up in it, and when they do find a way to come out, it may be hard because of the amount of period of time they have been in the home. Furthermore, when they go to court, majority of victims don't have someone to support them, and it makes it hard for them to stand up in the court with their molester and speak out, and then to be on the media, it gives them the anxiety to stay inside because everyone knows that they have been molested and it's going wrong and this person is talking, and sometimes the support is not there to keep them going.
Very good. Anyone else? Yes. We have one more person.
Some people get shunned for being molested, and maybe someone says, oh, they wanted this or they liked it, and instead of getting comforted about it, they get shunned and it makes them feel worse about it. Then they get guilt and think, oh, maybe if this happened, then that wouldn't have happened to me.
Very good.
all.
Okay. My next question is, does emotional response have a key influence on how we react to sexual offenses? Does emotional response have a key influence on how we react to sexual offenses? Since we're on that side already, we can begin on that side. Does emotional response have a key influence on how we react to sexual offenses? Anybody from here? All right, we can move to the other side. Does emotions have a lot to do with it? I know one of the teams spoke about that specifically. Anyone? Yes.
Yes, I think that emotional response does affect the victims because let's say I go to my parents and I tell them that I was molested. Personally, if they react like angrily, I would think, oh shit, that's my fault. I did that. It was because of me, causing me to feel possibly depressed and even kill myself.
Okay, thank you. Does emotional response have a key influence on how we react to sexual responses, to sexual offenses?
I feel like emotionally, like being uneducated is also part of the problem because if you are uneducated from a young age, like the incident that happened not too long ago with the little girl, she was touched by someone and she did not know that it was a bad touch until they did a census in her school and then she was informed and then they asked her like, were you touched? And she was like, yes. And then that's the only way it was brought up that it was a bad touch. And I feel like they should be educated from a younger age. And that also links to emotionally reacting to it. Because if from a young age your parents do not talk to you about these things and you see that they always have a negative impact to it or like they're positive about it, then that'll also impact the way emotionally you react to being either molested or whatever the case is.
Very true. Anyone else? Does emotional response have a key influence on how we react to sexual offenses?
Yes, I would say it definitely does because especially if you were once upon a time in such a situation where you may have been molested, anytime you hear of someone in such a situation, it triggers that type of revenge and that type of vengeance inside of you. And you can react emotionally as a result of that.
Thank you. Jelani, go ahead.
I think people tend to react when they can relate to the situation. So, for example, if you saw on like what happened with the little girl, when the mother went on DBN to complain about the lack of justice, I feel like it would be more parents that would be enraged about the situation because if they have a daughter that they can relate to it. So people tend to react more when they relate to the situation. For example, if you had a sister and somebody complained about somebody touched your sister or something else, then you would feel more inclined to react because you know you have a sister and that could happen to her as well.
Very good. Okay. My next question is, what is so special about sexual offenses that the names of the accused must remain unmentioned until the case is proven, as opposed to murder, other types of assaults, theft? Okay? If somebody can shed light on that. What is so special about sexual offenses that the names of the accused must remain unmentioned until the case is proven, as opposed to murder, other types of assaults, and things like theft?
Well, I feel like it's because it usually, like molestation, happens with younger children. It also happens to boys as well. They haven't mentioned that. Boys also do get molested, and that is also a problem. But you are, how do I put this? You are infiltrating somebody's body. You make them feel as if they are no longer welcome because all their other friends, they may not relate to them being touched in that way. They're taking away their sanity. So I feel like their name should be out there to what they did to the person.
Oh, you're answering a different question. What I'm asking is, what is so special about sexual offenses that the names of the accused must remain unmentioned until the case is proven, as opposed to murder, other types of assault, theft, these kind of things, vandalism, burglarism, these kinds of things? You can say the person's name from day one, even before they are formally accused in the court of law. But we're saying that for sexual offenses, no. So what is so special about sexual offenses, are you special in quotation marks, that we have to wait until proven guilty? Go ahead.
I feel like nothing, but
Go right ahead.
at the end of the day, the person wasn't found guilty as yet. They was accused. But sometimes, even in the court of law, somebody that did the crime, they was found not guilty. So I feel like the person their name should be out there, but it still shouldn't be out there at the same time because, you know, nobody wants to be called a rapist and they didn't do the crime, you understand? I don't know, that's a very difficult question.
That's why it's a debate question, yes? Very good, thank you. Anyone else wants to tell me what is so special about sexual offenses that the names of the accused must remain unmentioned until the case is proven, as opposed to murder and other types of assault, theft, burglary?
Good day, everybody.
Hello.
I don't speak from the standpoint of, well, based on what you're saying, I do understand where it can be difficult to say that the name should remain unknown or unannounced and so on. And I stand on the basis where that can destroy a life. A lot of times where someone can just lie and say something was done to get out of a situation, and then your whole life is destroyed. Imagine I, as a business owner, I'm accused of something like that. That's it. My life is over. Because everywhere you go, somebody will identify you as that type of person, and you did nothing wrong. But that person accused you. But at the same time, you have to inform the public about what is going on, since that same person might be actually doing that. So it's a very hard thing to say. But at the same time, I feel like protection of the person's life, because lies out there. A lot of times there are a lot of lies, and there are people who do it, and there are those who are just accused and nothing was done.
So my question to you now specifically is, so why is it okay for somebody to be labeled before they're proven as somebody who stole money from credit union, but to call them a malavioles is the wrong thing to do? I'm trying to see what is the difference. So you're telling me about lies, but somebody could have lied at the credit union and say you stole that money, right? So why?
I feel like it's a greater destruction of your life.
Okay, tell me.
Because versus being told I steal money, somebody will still, all right, cool, he stole. Versus knowing what you're doing. I feel like that act is such a degrading act that you're doing to someone, destroying someone else's life, destroying their self-esteem, destroying who they are. So when you see you indulge in such an act, you're destroying someone's life, and you as well. So I feel like it has a greater effect on your life versus being told I steal, you know? Versus being told that man was over there doing so and so. That one day destroys your life. I feel it does more of an impact.
All right. Anybody else wants to share what they feel? Why is it so special? What is so special, quote unquote, about sexual offenses that the names of the accused must remain unmentioned until the case is proven, unlike other ones like murder, other types of assault, theft?
Okay, My response is similar to what he said. The of sexual offense is so horrific, especially when it's of minors. People immediately become enraged about it. And it's very easy for people to make emotional decisions. So I think the very nature of the act, of the accusation, you want to ensure that you can verify that that person is actually guilty of what they've been accused of. So I think that is one aspect, that it is so horrific in its impact on the victim. And in terms of what it entails, that you would want to ensure that if I am going to say that this person, identify the person, I want to be as sure as possible. So I think that is one thing. I think the other aspect is that it tends to be something that happens with no witnesses, with no trail. So if somebody is accused of stealing in credit union, if you are the cashier and the record show that money is missing, generally there's a trail that can be followed. Somebody who's accused of murder, generally there's a trail that can be followed. If there's evidence, there's a gun, there's a knife, there's something. But oftentimes with sexual offenses, there is no trail. There are two people involved, and sometimes you cannot always clearly determine what the truth is. And in our Dominican context especially, we are not testing for DNA. A lot of the scientific evidence that could allow you to be more definitive in determining that that person is the perpetrator, it's lacking. And so, although I am not necessarily in agreement of withholding the names, because, you know, you would want somebody who is of that nature to be exposed, we want to ensure that we get it right and that we do not destroy somebody's life over an accusation. And there are instances where people are falsely accused for various reasons.
Okay. I think we have a few more people who wanted to share their thoughts.
Actually, it's a catch-22. Who is more of the victim, the person that is accused or the person that has done it? Most studies have shown that sexual abuse happens within the household with people that you know. It's not the stranger that has his heart and his face covered. It's somebody within your family, within your friends. And so I think it is necessary to protect people rather than protect the person. Worst case scenario, he'll be set free. Best case scenario, we will sensitize the rest of the public and he will not be allowed to do it again. When you commit a murder, it's one murder, but how many victims has he messed with? And to make it worse, in the debate, I didn't hear much mention of young men. Young men are sexually abused and it makes it even worse for them because they cannot speak about it. And this young lady spoke about the educating our youth. From the time my children were small, I spoke to them about it. And it's not just sexual abuse for children. It's sexual abuse within working environments. Nowadays, it might not be as so bad, but back then, managers were very guilty of doing things they were not supposed to do. And so I think the victim cannot become the perpetrator, and therefore that person has to be told he cannot do it, and whatever, and we publicize it, and if he's innocent, he's innocent.
All right, we'll take one more, Mr. Shillingford.
Okay, so referring to your question, I feel like for sexual offenses, the name should more be released if he's somebody that has done it before. So, like, for example, if he's a known sexual abuser, then his name should be mentioned anytime he's involved in an investigation. And another point that I had was that, referring to your question again, the severity of the crime. You cannot compare like sexual abuse to theft, because in reality, when you sexually abuse someone, you are essentially taking away their life. You're essentially cutting off something from them. That is worse than stealing, in my opinion. So it should be on the same level as murder, honestly.
I would be grateful, as I have two more questions, I would be grateful if someone would let the judges know that I'm running out of questions and they need to come back. So we're going to move on now to my next question. What are some of the dangers that the publication of the identities of the accused sexual offenders can cause? What are some of the dangers that can be caused if we were to reveal the identities of the accused? Anybody wants to give it a go? What are some of the dangers of publicizing the names?
I feel like some of the dangers. I feel like some of the dangers that come from that is that some people will go after those people and try to murder them in their sleep or something.
That's a possibility. Anybody else wants to tell me some of the dangers that publicizing the names can have?
Someone being accused doesn't mean that they actually did the crime. So, like, after we pass through court and everything, you know, like, even though the person is not guilty, but at the end of the day, when they're walking on the road, they also have a low self-esteem and walk with their head down because they don't want people to come and say, boy, look the rapist, you know, Dominicans.
Oh, yeah.
Look the rapist, look this, and that making you feel, you know, it making you feel a type of way, especially when you did not do it. When you go for jobs, nobody would want to employ you because they will be like, that person is a rapist. They don't want nobody to come and try. They don't want him to come and try and rape nobody at the workplace. So, yeah.
Anyone else? What are some of the dangers that publicizing the identities of the accused can cause?
Honestly, I believe that publicizing the name of the accused, it restricts it to people being, the victim being known. So it's like, let's say, a man that's, you know, sexually offended a girl, right? He is not he's not convicted, but he's accused. It would restrict it to the victim being known. And also it would cause some enhance, like in the emotions of people, like they would be like, oh wait, I know that man. And they would like go after him, try and talk to him, try to, you know, get some information. And what if he's not the one? What if he's innocent? What if he's, you know, he wasn't the one that committed the crime? It would not make sense because he's accused. He's just accused. He's not convicted. That's it.
Anyone else? What are some of the dangers of publicizing the identity of the accused? One more person.
Okay, so good afternoon.
Good afternoon, miss.
In Dominica, really, our communities are small. So when I identify the accused, then unintentionally, I am exposing the victim. Because, yes, so if I say, that man from, you see that man that is working at that bank, and he lives there, he abuses his niece. Then I know that his sister only has one daughter. Mm-hmm. I have exposed her. And initially I was saying to publishers' names, because I mean I have two daughters. So I was saying publishers' names. But I found out that really sometimes we expose the victim. And I really feel for victims because a lot of times it happens to children. And when we expose them, we tend to make them get scared of actually talking because they figure all eyes are on me. Mm-hmm. You pass there and they're talking about me. I go to school and they're talking about me. And so in that case, I say, well, we need to wait, all right, until. And more so, I think we need to get help. So the question might not address that, but I think we need to get, we need to get help for victims. Mm-hmm. I don't think we do enough in Dominica to help the victims because whether we like it or not, they are exposed. What do we do for them? How do we assist them? I think we need to spend time coming up with more ways on which we can provide assistance really to the victims because sometimes they do not get it at home. Because if it's my mother's boyfriend and my mother get vexed because you go and tell people our business, mm-hmm. All right? Sometimes the child is at home by herself and she's going through all that. How do we help? All right? Because if we say, okay, that mother boyfriend, one daughter she has around that age, we expose them. A lot of times the victims are exposed. And sometimes by exposing the perpetrator, we expose a victim. So we have to try to shield the victim at all costs.
Thank you. All right. Somebody should let the judges know that I am going down to my last question and that I'm going to have some dead air if they don't come back. Yeah, we have one more person to respond to that question before I move on to my last. Okay, because they really should be here by now. So somebody please go and find them and tell them to come in. All right.
Yeah, so continuation to what you were saying about after they accuse the person and they was found not guilty, right? When they walking on the streets, low self-esteem, they cannot find a job, also their life at an all-time low, that might cause the person to be suicidal because at the end of the day, they cannot find work, they cannot get money to get food, they cannot do nothing with themselves again, you know? So that has called the person to kill themselves, do something with themselves.
Right.
You know?
Very good. Thank you. So my final question is, what would be some of the advantages of publicizing the identities of the accused sexual offenders? So we talked about the disadvantages, but what are some of the advantages? Why would it be a good idea to publish the names of the accused?
Because it prevents that act from repeating itself.
Thank you. Anybody else wants to tell us why it would be a good idea to publicize the names and publicize the identities of the accused sexual offenders? Anyone else?
To make the person feel like what they did was wrong. First of all, if I was in that position as the person, I don't know how I'll feel, but I'll feel kind of a way. But to make the person feel what they did was wrong, they should be punished.
Thank you very much. Anybody else wants to tell me what are the advantages that they think that publicizing such a list would have?
Yes, one of the advantages I would say is that you are immediately sending a message to potential offenders that you will not hide behind this curtain of non-publication. And it will pose as a deterrent to persons thinking that they can escape.
Very good. I want to thank you, the members of my audience, for engaging me as we waited for the judges to return from their deliberations. We are now ready to hear the critique of our Chief Judge, Indira Seja. I invite her to come to the podium and to give me the scores as she comes forward so she can give the general critique of the judges about today's debate. Indira, clap for Ms. Seja.
Hey, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I was nominated Chief Judge today, and I was told it's because I was a bit late, and had I been here a few minutes earlier, I wouldn't have been Chief Judge, but I don't buy that story. All right, I had a feeling I would be Chief Judge even before this debate, and the reason being, the debate touches on a legal quandary that we have, and I being an attorney at law, I believe that, it is felt that I might have some legal insight into this particular topic. And the topic is one that it's always a timely one, but I noticed just based on my social media feed that it is something that is a hot topic right now, because every time I open social media, there is some form of public debate on the issue. So kudos to Ms. Christian for coming up with this topic as the topic for the final debate. And on that note, we must say that the debate was a very powerful one. You may have noticed that we took more than 15 minutes. All right, so let us give a round of applause for our debaters. All right, we saw some very spirited debating today, and it was really worthy of the finals of the debating competition. Now, as judges, we were looking and listening for certain key points, and the debaters did not disappoint. One of the points that we were looking for or looking at was the definition of key terms, especially definition in the legal sense. As I always tell my students, there are the ordinary meanings of words, and then there are the legal meanings of words that we ordinarily use. So it was good to see the debaters actually define some of the key terms, but in terms of their legal definition, as it is stated in the statute. Okay, so I think both teams did a very good job at that. We like to begin with the positive. So when you hear judges' critique, people normally think that we're going to come here and destroy the debaters and tear them apart. But today, we really want to just highlight some of the positives. I think we have one critique point. Most of them are fairly positive. So first things first, both teams properly defined all the key terms, especially from a legal standpoint. We saw both teams giving evidence, very good evidence, to support their arguments, right? And as a lawyer, that means a lot, because even when we're in court and we're arguing, we cannot just bring our personal arguments to the court. We have to come with our authorities, right? So we saw both teams come with some very cogent evidence. And what we actually applauded them for as well is that there were quite a few local reliance on local evidence. So we saw people quoting the Sun newspaper, the local newspaper. We heard one of the teams, I think, or both, I'm not sure, I don't remember right now, they interviewed local people. So we got, first-hand feedback from the people on the ground, the people who would most likely be affected by any amendment or lack thereof to the legislation. So that was very good on the part of the debaters. And they gave some very good notable examples and also very current examples of evidence to support their arguments. As judges, we also appreciated the use of colloquial language today in the debate. Sometimes the debate can seem as if it's a little bit disconnected. We're listening, but we feel like we're far removed from the debaters. But because of the use of colloquialism throughout the debate, it kind of gave us a sense of being connected with the debaters in their points. And if, as judges, we appreciated that, I have no doubt that the audience really did appreciate it as well. So thank you very much, debaters, for that. Another important point that we would like to raise was the fact that the debaters did not just stick to the points that supported their arguments. They came with recommendations, all right? So this topic is a very touchy subject, and it's not really a matter of supporting or being against the moot, but always finding that balance, right? So we found that the debaters, although they gave their points, they would have noted that certain recommendations can be made, or alternatives. They actually gave alternatives, and that's very important in a debate. It's not just, and I fashion that to something like what we have as mediation, right? Sometimes you come with your point, but then in mediation you have to be willing to move from your point and come somewhere in the middle, right? That is the true meaning of mediation. So I think they did very well in bringing, highlighting, certain recommendations, especially when you look at things like the inefficiencies in the court system. I think they did a very good job at highlighting that, but also saying what they could recommend in lieu of but publishing the names of accused people. So with that, I also want to highlight just one small critique. We felt that both teams made a general assumption that victims of sexual offenses are, I see somebody in the audience mouthing it, but that's the second point. One, that they are only minors and children. Okay, so I think that was the assumption that was given, but remember, even adults can be victims of sexual offenses, and also that the victims are female, but we know that also male children and male adults can be victims of sexual offense. All right, so I would really like to congratulate the debaters again. Let's give them another round of applause. Okay.
Thank you very much to our Chief Judge, Indira Seja, who was assisted today by Mrs. Delia Coffey Weeks and Miss Antonia Yankee. Thank you very much. And so now I have the pleasure of giving the results before I pass back to our MC, Miss Christian, who will proceed with the prize giving and the closing of our activity here today. The judges have decided that the best... Oh, I forgot to call the children back. I was so excited with the paper that I have in front of me, you know. So the children come, the presenters, please come back to your place. And I also wanted to tell Ms. Seja that do not believe this business about being late. On the paper I have, it says that you're chief judge, and that was typed. So somebody somewhere knew that you were going to be chief judge long before you and I did that, okay? So that late thing, All right. Everybody's in their place? Very good. Okay. So the judges have decided that the best speaker for today's debate is Miss Nayola Aline of Wesley High School. The judges have also decided that the best rebuttal for today's debate was presented by Ms. Devziba Adimola of Wesley High School. And so, the scores are as follows. In the presentation of our topic, Dominica should amend its Sexual Offences Act to allow limited publication of the identities of accused sexual offenders in the public interest. Proposing the topic, Dominica Grammar School had a total of 573 points. Opposing the topic is Wesley High School, who received a total of 653 points. Congratulations to the team from Wesley High School, who achieved 653 points. I now invite the young ladies from the Dominica Grammar School to walk over to the students of the Wesley High School and congratulate them on their victory while we wait for Ms. Christian to come forward to continue with the ceremony.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new debate champion, the Wesley High School. And we have a very strongly defended title, the Dominica Grammar School, but I'm pretty sure they'll be back next year, right? So, it's the fun time, the prize-giving time, the time where people get things. And for their hard work and determined effort, they are very well deserving. So I will start off, though, not by rewarding the debaters who are here at the finals this afternoon, but by doing a special presentation to a school that has been determined by me to be the most improved school of the intersecondary schools debating competition. So the first award I will hand over will be to the most improved school for this debate competition since its inception in 2023. I will give you some cues first. This school, in the knockoff round of the debate competition in January, this school put up the top score in that round, a score of 341 points, and that was put up by their debater, Shania John. This school went on in the second round to be the highest scoring winner of the second round, defeating the Orion Academy, which is a long-standing winner of the Intersecondary Schools debating competition, having won once before. And this school, in the semi-final round, put up a strong performance against the Wesley High School, but the Wesley High School triumphed in that debate. The St. Martin Secondary School and I call up Shania John and Curtis Simon, the debaters in this year's debate representing the St. Martin Secondary School, to receive this award on behalf of their school. And please do a central handover for our media. I want to congratulate the ladies. Both are fifth formers, and I know it is an extremely hard task to take part in a debating competition that spans multiple months as fifth formers. So congratulations. Ladies, this award is for the school, but you will be receiving gift certificates, compliments Dr. Shana Kazemi. Once I get your email addresses before you leave, you will receive those gift certificates in your inboxes. So congratulations, the St. Martin Secondary School. Now we move on to the ladies who are here today. So we did have the best speaker in this debate being Miss Nayola Aline of the Wesley High School. And I'd like to call on Ms. Cheryl Roll, who has graciously decided to give an award to the best speaker at the finals of the Intersecondary Schools debating competition. So Nayola, please come forward to receive your prize for being the best speaker in this afternoon's debate. Let's do a come center. Just come. Congratulations. Also, Nayola receives a gift compliment Shams Eats and Treats and her trophy as the best speaker this afternoon. Well, today. The best rebuttal was adjudged to be from the Wesley High School as well, from the lead speaker, Ms. Hebziba Ademola. I call her forward to receive her prize, and Ms. Roll, also you come up to give your prize to the person who delivered the best rebuttal of today's debate. So Ms. Roll has given a second prize as well. Congratulations, Hebziba, and rebuttals are the most difficult part of the debate process, and so we choose to very particularly reward that in the finals. Thank you so much. Let's move on to present prizes to the runners-up. From the Dominica Grammar School, a very strong performance this morning in the debate, Michaela Benjamin and Lydia Charles can come forward. The runners-up will receive, of course, their trophies, gifts, compliments, the Intersecondary Schools debating competition, gift bags. They also receive gift certificates to Ocean Oasis Hotel. They'll determine what they do with these. No, hold on. Our sponsors have to hand over the prizes. So for now, the gift certificates to Ocean Oasis and a cash prize as well in there. Congratulations, ladies. And now I'll call on the representative, the marketing manager from the National Bank of Dominica, to hand over tokens to our runners-up. Stay in place. just stay in place, to hand over some tokens from the National Bank of Dominica and the cash. The National Bank of Dominica will do another presentation to the winners. Thank you. And also to the stay in place still, the representative from KFC, Jade Lindsay, please come up to present some tokens from KFC. Both KFC and National Bank of Dominica are continuous sponsors of the Intersecondary Schools Debating Competition. And I thank them for their consistency of support. Ladies, thank you very much. And congratulations for your very, very hard work today. Let's move on to present to the winners this afternoon from the Wesley High School. Miss Hebziba Ademola and Miss Nayola Aline, please step forward while you receive your prizes. Firstly, the trophy handover to the ladies. Now, take off that envelope. Take out the envelope from the trophy, please. The envelopes, the envelopes will be passed over. I'll call back Miss Michelle Joseph of the National Bank of Dominica. She should present the envelopes and the, and the gift bags, as the cash prize for the winners is sponsored by the National Bank of Dominica. However, ladies, the cash prize, you only get some of it today. The rest, when you take your grand prize, which is a trip for 4 to St. Lucia, that you will enjoy over the summer. So the rest of the cash will come later. I also call on the KFC representative, Jade Lindsay, to hand over the KFC tokens. Lastly, ladies, I don't think lastly, but the gift bags, that complements the competition. You can just hand those over. Congratulations. And if you have more space in your hands, maybe they don't, but the last part of their prize, yeah, let them come back. I'd also like to call on the coach from the Wesley High School, Mrs. Caban. I call on the coach at this time because at this time, we're going to hand over the big trophy, which goes this year to stay for a year to the Wesley High School. It has just been, it was just returned from the Dominica Grammar School where it stayed for a year. They kept it very safe. Thank you so much. Now it shifts homes to the Wesley High School. And I want that coach in the middle to raise that trophy as we congratulate the Wesley High School. And it's not done in any other competition I've heard about in Dominica, but because I have been a coach for a long time, I know the importance of coaching, and I know how hard coaches work in this process. So in the Intersecondary Schools Debating Competition, we always reward the coaches. So a prize to the coach from the Wesley High School, Mrs. Caban, and I know she was assisted too by others, so she will have to share but she represents the coaching team there at the Wesley High School. And from the Dominica Grammar School, one of the most exceptional... one of the most exceptional coaches in this competition, always putting out some great, great work with her students, Mrs. Dorcas Francis Simon. We thank you so much for your efforts. And as I said, I know you will be back. And we move on to present tokens of appreciation and thanks to our debate officials who, of course, facilitated these proceedings today. I will start with the moderator who did an amazing job, as I know she would, Dr. Kimon Joseph. Dr. Joseph is the one that can come up with questions to keep the audience going, even when the judges take longer than anticipated. Dr. Joseph, thank you so much for your work today. Okay. And then our judges, you took long, but you came back, and we are pleased that you did not just abscond and not come back. You did come back. I'll start with the Chief Judge, Ms. Indira Seja, to receive our token of appreciation. Center. And the judges are asking if they took long. But it wasn't as bad as we've seen in the past, but it was definitely beyond the 15 minutes. And Mrs. Antonia Yankee. And Mrs. Delia Coffey Weeks. Thank you so much, judges and moderator. I want to specially acknowledge members of the committee. Not all are there, but I will possibly give out their prizes later, since everybody works with me at the Dominica State College. That's how they're on the committee. And then there's my mother who's at home. So I will give them prizes after. But I want to especially recognize Rashad, who is a student who has helped out at each of the debates this year in the intersecondary schools debating competition of the DSC Literary and Debating Society. Rashad has suddenly forgotten his name. But a special gift of appreciation. Rashad, you want a picture? Okay. No pictures for Rashad. Cheryl Roll has said that she has some other prizes. She will hand them out. I guess she came like true Santa Claus, bearing gifts. To the Dominica Grammar School, she wants to present an additional prize. And yes, I saw some shock at the announcement of the grand prize. So all these many sponsors that we have, it's because the grand prize is a big prize. So the Wesley High School team and their coach or designate chaperones will be awarded a prize, which is a trip to St. Lucia for 4 in the summer with all expenses paid, hotel accommodation and transportation. A prize valued at $7,500. That's why we try to get as many sponsors as we can, right? So it is the end of the prize giving segment.
No, it is not the end. We have a special prize. Miss Christian, could you go forward, please? And I will invite Mrs. D4 to come to the microphone. Could you stand center as you've been telling everyone?
Good afternoon. I realize Trudy has been awarding everybody, and I was very touched, especially when she made mention of the coaches. And as a small business owner and supporting like what I can in education, this afternoon I want to recognize Trudy. So in the spirit of appreciation and thanksgiving, I wish to recognize Ms. Trudy Christian for her contribution to the development of youth. Your passion and enthusiasm for debating and public speaking has given a new generation of young people an opportunity for the self-expression. We thank you for all that you have done and what you will continue to do in the future. So on behalf of Shams Eats and Drinks, we present that to you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ejadi Maxwell, but most people call me Jazz, and I will be presenting the vote of thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the DSC Literary and Debating Society, I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to everyone who contributed to the success of today's debate. First and foremost, we extend our sincere thanks to our respected moderator for the day, Dr. Kimun Joseph, for skillfully guiding the proceedings and ensuring a fair and orderly debate. We are equally grateful to the judges for today's competition, Delia Coffee Weeks, Indira Seja, and Antonia Yankee, for their time, expertise, and impartial assessment of the debaters. Our appreciation also goes to all the debate officials who served throughout the competition. Your dedication and commitment behind the scenes did not go unnoticed. We would like to specially acknowledge our headline sponsor, Josephine Gabriel & Co. Limited, for their generous support and belief in the power of intellectual discourse. We are also thankful to our valued sponsors, Dominica Social Security, Fremont Consulting LLC, Nagico Insurances, National Bank of Dominica, Insurance Company of the West Indies, Lindomat, KFC, Domlec, DBS Radio, Maysil Pascal and Grace Foundation, Central Cooperative Credit Union, Q95 FM Radio, Emo News, Dominica News Online, Variety News Group, Chams Eats and Treats, Dr. Shana Casimir, Dr. Liv Peltier, Dr. Mary Pascal Afana, Cheryl Rule, and Yakima Coffee Basil for making this event possible. We thank the media houses present here today for their coverage and for helping to amplify the voices of our young debaters to a wider audience. A special word of thanks to the DSC Literary and Debating Society for their vision and continuous efforts in promoting debating culture within our institution. We are deeply grateful to the organizing committee members, Alicia Jajak, Kimisha Warrington, Alden Gage, Rhonda Luke, Daisy Williams, and Ms. Trudy Christian for their tireless planning, coordination, and execution of this event. Finally, we extend our sincere appreciation to all the competing schools and their participants for your spirited performances, sportsmanship, and for making this debate both competitive and enriching. Thank you all once again for your invaluable contributions. Together, we have made this debate a memorable and successful one.
Thank you to the vote of thanks giver, Jazz Maxwell, previous winner of the Intersecondary Schools Debating Competition. Jazz, what year? 2024? 2024 Intersecondary Schools Debating Competition champion. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's proceedings. I invite you, before you leave, to have a refreshment, and you will be assisted with that. And until next year, God willing, it has been a great debate season. Do take care. Bye-bye.